All right, we have a fantastic guest on today. We're going to take a little detour, and I have with me, obviously, Coach DePasco, who's with me every single time on the Prospect Podcast, and we're going to talk about nutrition. We have Wendi Irlbeck with us today. She is a superstar nutritionist out of Texas, correct?
I'm currently in Dallas, Texas, but I'm a
Yes,
Minnesota native.
that's right. I did see that. Minnesota native. Much warmer climate. Definitely. Although it's cold there right now, right? It's cold there right now.
I think
Listen,
the sun
it
is up, so it's a nice day.
Oh, it
yeah,
is. Okay. Okay.
seems to be the trend of the week since we had Coach Mueller on yesterday from Minnesota as well. So it seems to be
That's
the trend
my,
of the week, Wendy, and we're going with it.
You
yeah,
got
that's actually my high school. I graduated from Stewartville High School in 2008. So I'm so glad to see that football program get turned around because we needed some help. So he's done a fantastic job with the program.
that's
Wow.
amazing. How about that? What is that like?
Okay, stars
Kevin
are
Bacon,
aligning.
like Kevin Bacon, 6 degrees of separation or something. Uh,
That's just something.
but yes, she really like. I've dived into her Instagram, and she's become a celebrity in the nutrition space. Well, all right, I won't say influencer. I'll say celebrity.
Thank
That's
you.
better. Celebrity's better, right? So, but yeah, really done a great job of. And some really interesting points too about things with nutrition and athletes and things. Some of the things I didn't even realize. Like I saw your stuff on like how creatine helps and all these different things that are nuances that are very very difficult for athletes to manage. There's all kinds of and not just athletes, but obviously people in their daily lives. But athletes specifically because of the fact that they have specific needs, they're exerting themselves, they're trying to recover, they're trying to get stronger, they're sometimes trying to get bigger, and depending on what their sport is. And so it's really great to have you on to talk about these things because it's not just about what you're doing activity wise, but it's about what you're putting into your body, and that can ultimately help you become a better athlete, but also limit you from an injury standpoint, help you with recovery, help you from a standpoint of being able to have more longevity in your career, those kind of things. So thank you for coming on today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dave and Derek. And you guys do a fantastic job bringing on good guests like your previous coach who has had so much success. So I hope to add value to everything that you've already done and that the listeners can get some actionable tips that they can apply immediately today.
That's awesome. That's what we're looking for. So, talk about your career and kind of how you, arrived and became a nutritionist, and where that genesis came from for yourself.
Absolutely. So at a very young age, around 11, I knew that I fell in love with nutrition. I was fascinated by the fact that we could put specific foods in our body and there would be a direct impact. And I know this because I totally nerded out as a athlete myself. I played college softball. I did a lot of chores growing up in southeastern Minnesota. I understood that when I ate eggs and steak and berries, I felt way better than when I had Lucky Charms as a kid. So I immediately connected those dots and I ran cross country in high school, played college softball. I understood that when I ate well, I felt well, I performed well, not only, in performance, but also in the classroom. And there were several instances where I underfueled my body as a cross country runner, so incredibly passionate about how to be faster, stronger, less injury prone, have more energy, just simply feel better. So I just fell in love with nutrition. I've been studying it since well before social media, Google existed. It was Ask Jeeves in high school. And I remember just looking things up and just wanted to find out any possible competitive edge I could gain. So I always say nutrition is your secret weapon and it can make a good athlete great or a great athlete good. And that's so true because we see athletes every single day that do gain muscle, they get stronger, they sleep better, they have better recovery, less muscle cramping. So just truly been an athlete my whole life. And I did some bodybuilding shows. I've run some half marathons. I still actively lift weights, pull-ups. Everybody should do them. I think it's ridiculous. A lot of athletes struggle to maintain some sort of consistent routine after being, an athlete. So I think that a part of what we do, my team and I, is everybody's an athlete. And obviously you're going to eat differently in high school versus college and then post college. But everybody's an athlete. We need to fuel our bodies properly. And fighting disease risk as well. So what we're eating every single day directly influences our mood, our appetite, our hormone levels. So even if you're listening to this as a coach, your coaching career can be cut short if you don't manage your stress levels well, you don't eat properly, and it's a high stress game. So this is for the coaches out there. I've experienced it myself. Just our high school coaches, they spread themselves thin. And I remember talking to some of our baseball, softball, and even cross country, like, hey, I read this on Ask Jeeves. This will make you feel better. You're fatigued right now. It's because you're not eating enough carbohydrates. So long story short, I've completely nerded out. I did 2 undergrads at the University of Wisconsin Stout. I went and got my master's. I was matched for a dietetic internship. I did 8 years of food and nutritional training, the formal training, and then I did a unpaid internship at the University of Florida. I worked for free. I slept on floors. I have worked my butt off and earned absolutely everything, but I can't take all the credit. God has been good. And, he shows up and blesses as long as we're willing to bring our axe and work at it. But I've just really fell in love with athletes and families and helping coaches and just anybody who comes across my desk. How can I add value? How can I help them solve problems? Whether that's low iron, gaining muscle, gaining weight. That is one of the biggest problems that I see is just athletes don't know how to gain weight the right way. They're doing Pop-Tarts and a bunch of
Yeah.
nonsense. So that's a whole nother topic. But as you can tell, I'm super passionate. But I believe in being a lifelong learner. So I have several accolades, but I still don't know everything and I'm still learning. And there's still so much that I'm excited to learn from my clients, from my athletes, from coaches like yourselves.
It's such a difficult process for families, especially since athletics are a part of most people's lives today. And families are they're traveling to sports, and they're trying to pack snacks, and they're trying to figure out how to hydrate properly, all these different things. Like, what are some simple things that parents can do to make sure if a kid's at like a tournament or has a game and they're going to be exerting themselves, that they do like certain things correctly? Because one of the issues I always see is kids' breakfast is always an issue. Like, if when you go online, you read about breakfast, like they're like, it used to be, oh, everyone was expected to kind of eat breakfast, right? But then there's all this stuff like, don't eat breakfast. And I noticed with my son, if that dude don't eat something before he goes, he's a nightmare. I'm not even talking about the competition aspect, because he's probably still kind of okay there, but his mental aspect of what he does, and I've tried to ingrain it to his head because he doesn't want to eat breakfast, right? I'm like, you got to eat it. I'm not worried. I mean, yes, obviously it will help your performance, some level of fueling up, but your mental aspect, when something goes wrong, I know I've seen him fly off the handle. And when he eats, he eats breakfast, he eats some sort of proper breakfast. He does not, and he's in much more control of his emotions. Talk about what parents can do to kind of make sure their athlete is ready to go and in a good space.
Thank you. I love that question and the tournament question. Happy to answer this. So everybody who is possibly listening and taking notes, now is the time to get out your notepad, your legal pad and pen. So number one, breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. And I have said this on many podcasts because all meals matter. Every meal matters just as much as breakfast. It's just that those that consume breakfast tend to have more concentration, more energy levels. They tend to also be less prone to injuries because research supports this. I've studied adolescent nutrition. I'm technically pediatric nutrition by trade. That's nutrients missed at breakfast are often not made up later in the day. Those that miss breakfast under consuming protein, less iron, less vitamin D and calcium. So breakfast is a controllable. I always tell parents and athletes like, hey, we're on our phones over 4 hours a day, and I'm in the research all the time. I'm seeing the numbers increase. If you have time to scroll social media, TikTok, you have time to plan out a Greek yogurt and berries the night before. It'll take you less than 5 minutes. You could actually put together 10 breakfast in under 10 minutes. Our newsletter, the website, I have several breakfast tips. The same rules apply for tournaments. But my first question always that I get from athletes, to your point, is what protein powder should I be using? Okay, well, why are you interested in that? Well, I want to gain weight. What did you eat for breakfast? I didn't eat breakfast. Let's please start there. That is the best place to start, right? Like it seems very simple. And I put them in that position. I get them backed in a corner because it forces them to realize the error of their ways. And I'm not here to say that they're making all these mistakes. It's to say, what are the controllable factors? Every single person that works in athletics, it's always what can I control, and identifying that and focusing on that and ignoring what you can't. So the most important thing is that you, number one, control your controllables. Breakfast is a controllable. You can also do, Greek yogurt parfaits. You can do Mason protein oat recipes. I have several. You put them in Mason jars. Protein pancakes, protein waffles. You can even do a peanut butter banana sandwich if you're weight gain. That's a great one. But you've got to eat breakfast. If you're not eating breakfast, start there. And I'll take it a step further. And I always say on game day, you should be eating a second breakfast because you need additional carbohydrates and protein. And again, that's a controllable. And we're talking, I have a couple snacks with me. You don't have to make it crazy. Keep it simple. Here is an RX bar. Simple way. This can be a second breakfast, something way better than nothing, because consistently you're factoring in, another 200 plus calories per day. And that's something that these high school and even college athletes, right? They're burning thousands of calories. They need additional fuel substrates, right? So how can you make that simple and easy? You can also do a core power protein shake. There's 42-gram protein shakes out there. I am the queen of making things simple because we have the busy sports family, right? So I have gotten really creative. If you're at baseball tournaments, football game, it doesn't matter. It's just the portion, and then the frequency may increase or decrease pending your goals, what you have going on. So say it's a baseball tournament or a softball tournament, you want to make sure that you focus on protein and carbohydrates because fat takes longer to digest. So you really want to think, right, in terms of quick carbs. So it could be chicken and rice. You could also do hard-boiled egg with grapes, string cheese. Like I said in our newsletter and on my website, literally have free blogs, tournament snacks, what to eat on game day, how to fuel in the days leading up to game day.
Yep.
But everybody should be, eating breakfast. That's a controllable. Second breakfast on game day. Wake up 5 minutes earlier. Nobody forgets their cell phone, right? You shouldn't be forgetting breakfast.
It's a big thing. So I think that's such a great point. And it's simple and easy things. Like people rush and they just like, oh, I'll get to it later. And it's a great point. And one of the things you always have as athletes is that, especially when you're going to tournaments and stuff, is, it's not just about game one. It's about game 3 or 4 over the weekend that you have to play. And you're trying to, get them to be able to continue to compete and not get injured and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You had another thing that I thought was really interesting. So when they're, as far as fueling up and being, how much should they? So what I've noticed is like my son's 9, okay, and high school kids are much more than my son is because they've already hit puberty and all that kind of stuff. He's always working out at a practice, and he's hungry all the time. And I get in this discussion all the time with my wife. I'm like, listen, let him eat something. And she's always worried about, well, is he eating too much, right? Which I understand. Like you want your kid to have a good body weight, right? And he's a lean kid. He's a lean muscular kid, but he's always hungry. Like he tells me this all the time. I'm always hungry. I'm always hungry. You know what I mean? And so talk about that a little bit. And I'm sure with teenagers, Derek probably remembers this himself. I remember myself when I was in high school. I was always eating something. You know what I mean? And I never got fat from that in high school. Now, when you get older, that changes. But that's the body type change. I'm like, man, I don't eat half of what I used to eat when I was younger, and I'll get fat immediately. But it's talk about that for like young people and playing sports and how much eating is too much and how what is the right amount. I don't know.
Absolutely. So it really depends, right? Any good practitioner will say it depends because every phase of our life is going to require different habits, right? Different routine, different fueling. And obviously, our metabolic rate decreases as we age. So we're not burning as many calories. We're also not growing and developing a body anymore. That's why adolescents are always hungry. But they're also, that could be a number of reasons. He's not eating enough protein because protein supports satiety. So, I mean, I would love to look at, hey, what is he eating? How much is he eating? How many calories? Is it all carbohydrates? Because if a kid eats nothing but Pop Tarts and popcorn and chips and candy and very little protein, of course they're going to be hungry all the time. Their muscle is literally craving amino acids and, even the brain as well. So just keeping it super simple and simplifying, I always say 3 to 4 balanced meals with 2 snacks. That's very simple, right? And you can spread it out throughout the day. But most athletes are probably going to feel hunger every couple of hours, especially as they're competing. So some of the simplest things that you can do is always pair protein and produce, because protein supports satiety. You're also getting fiber from the produce. So some good examples are going to be like a turkey sandwich with some grapes. You do a string cheese, Greek yogurt and berries. Getting them just into the routine and building that consistency, that's the best place to start. Adding in protein, you could do a protein fruit smoothie using milk and Greek yogurt. I mean, I have protein fruit smoothies that do not require any protein powder, and it's Greek yogurt, milk, nut butter, some oatmeal, and a banana in there. That's a really great way to start off your day as a 9-year-old athlete. But if he's constantly hungry, that tells me that he's not eating enough protein, and he's just, yes, likely not getting enough calories overall. So, liquid calories are great, because you can blend it up into a smoothie. Greek yogurt's very easy to eat. They have Okios Pro, which literally has 25 grams. So most 9-year-olds should be eating at least, 20 grams at a meal. We always say, for those that are taking notes, 15 grams of protein per snack, and then anywhere from 20 to 40 grams at a meal, which is actually quite easy to do, if you're eating real food, right? Not just snacking on pretzels and snacky foods. And I think that's a challenge with kids is they're just not getting enough high quality protein sources.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and I think that's always the issue. And Derek coach, high school kids, and we have a club we work with high school kids, and they're always have concerns about and their parents do between protein powders, creatine, and coaches always are trying to figure out like you hear all these different things. Creatine's good, creatine's not good. We know what creatine does as far as help in building the muscle, but you see all these different things on that, and parents don't understand the levels of importance of creatine, what protein powders to take. You talked a little bit about that. Can you go into a little bit about creatine and protein powders and building muscle?
Absolutely. So, number one, we have to lift weights, we have to get enough sleep, we have to eat real food, you have to eat enough calories to build muscle. But creatine monohydrate is safe, it's effective, it's beneficial. Kids as young as 6 months old, I'm talking infants, because I have a creatine and youth athletes blog that I authored in 2020. I was actually interviewed in Forbes Health talking about this. I have zero skin in the game. I don't have any stock in creatine. I wish I did, but I'd make so much money. But the fact of the matter is, I saw all the research, I read through all of it, and I was like, why aren't my athletes using this? I need to integrate this. So there's been absolutely zero reported adverse effects in the literature. Creatine monohydrate has been one of the most widely studied ergogenic aids since 1928. It's not a steroid. It's arginine, glycine, and methionine. It's literally 3 amino acids. And we would have to consume 2 to 4 pounds of meat in
Huh.
order to get the equivalent, yes, of 5 grams. So when pediatricians are just like, no, it's a steroid. No, it has steroid-like properties. Doctors get 6 weeks of nutrition. They do not know what they do not know. And I can say this because I've coached personally a lot of doctors, anesthesiologists on fat loss. I have doctors in my family. They get no nutrition education. That's why registered dietitians are, we are the food and nutrition experts. And unfortunately, in my profession, there are dietitians out there that do lead, they put out misinformation. And I hate saying misinformation, but they're lies. It's a complete fabrication. And it's not true to say that creatine is dangerous or it's a steroid, because it's not. It helps recycle ATP, which this is the cell's energy currency. So we all should care about ATP. If my grandmother was still alive, she would be supplementing with creatine. women should be supplementing with creatine. Everybody with a beating pulse should be using it because, again, I just said we'd have to eat 2 to 4 pounds of meat, and meat is expensive. We are under a better
Oh,
administration now, so things are going to change.
Yes,
Uh,
that's right.
oh,
yes,
all right. Look at that.
praise
So you've
Jesus.
already won this podcast,
We
girl.
won this podcast right here.
Hey,
Yes.
I'm a small business owner. I also grew up conservative. Nonetheless, not to get political, but I believe in America. I love the Lord. I believe that where we're headed now and protecting girls and boys in our designated sports is
Awesome.
critical. As a former college athlete, I will stand firm in that. So that being said, women should be using creatine as well. Everybody needs to use creatine. And if you have questions about it, if you literally Google my name, you will find infinite videos. You will find my creatine and youth athletes blog, which I have, it's not my opinion. I have cited all of the data, and I was also interviewed in Forbes Health. So there are my credentials on the line. And then just talking about protein powder. So on podcasts, I often get these questions. So protein powders do not guarantee the same high quality amino acids that eating beef, chicken, fish, eggs, bison, wild game. You should be eating food first. But if you're an athlete, right, that's what supplements are meant for. So here I have Momentos. This is a third-party tested whey protein. It breaks down the amount of amino acids that are in it. So if you're looking for a high quality protein, you need to look at what are the ingredients, what is the amount of leucine? It should have a minimum of 2.5 grams. That's how you pick out a good protein powder. And you also want to make sure that it has the third party tested stamp of approval, because
Mhm.
if it doesn't, anybody, you guys could make a powder in your garage today, put it on the market, and it could have gravel, it could have rat poison, it could have absolutely zero amino acids, and it could be a proprietary blend, which that's why I'm really concerned with a lot of kids when they go into GNC or any supplement store and they're just picking things off the shelf without any concern, just like pre-workouts. They don't even know what's in it. It could
Right.
actually harm their liver and kidneys if it is not third party tested. So I would rather us shift the conversation to, why do we need this supplement? Is it safe? Is it effective? Is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Most kids don't need a protein powder. They need breakfast. They need 7 to 11 hours of sleep. They need balanced meals and consistency in their hydration as well. So if you are using a protein powder, again, third party tested, look at the ingredient list, look at the manufacturing and production, make sure there's enough leucine, which is the number one driver for muscle protein synthesis. If it says proprietary blend on it, it's complete trash. Don't use it. And what I would say, a lot of people hate on these as well. So Core Powers, full disclosure, I used to work for the Dairy Council as a sports dietitian before I started my private practice. So I have a lot of background in dairy, but dairy is one of the best protein sources because it contains a great deal of leucine. It also has minerals in it. So if you're an athlete, doing a core power, doing Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, that's the best way to promote muscle protein synthesis and recovery.
How
I
about
think that's
chocolate? How about chocolate milk? Is chocolate milk as a post recovery? Is that
just milk.
yeah or
Like
Yes. So
Wendy, I think it's
chocolate.
great that you brought that up. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just
Oh,
think
you're
that's
good.
great that you brought that up because I think milk is just such a it's one of these topics that people are so uneducated in the process itself. And now there's 1,000 options on the shelf, right? When I was a kid, it was whole milk and maybe 2%. And now you have soy milk, you have almond milk, you have all of these other things that people call milk. And it's really not whatsoever, So I'm just so happy you brought this up. Please continue.
Love that. Actually, thank you for bringing that up. Those are not milks. They're not from a cow. It's called nut juice, and it's
Right.
not the same. So thank you for bringing that up, Derek. So chocolate milk, specifically starting with that, chocolate milk has been scientifically proven to offer the 3-to-1 carbohydrate to protein ratio for recovery. So you're getting protein, you're getting carbs, you're getting electrolytes. There's 9 essential nutrients in it. It's also cost effective. We're coming out of an era where everything's ridiculously expensive. Chocolate milk is one that sport families, you pay a lot of money for training, for all the things. Chocolate milk is a controllable item that you should have in your fridge. If you do Fairlife, there's actually less sugar. If you're worried about that, there's more protein. I always say it depends, right? If you're an athlete that is struggling with your weight, We work with I've helped a lot of young adolescent athletes lose over 100 pounds, a couple linemen that were just, they were overweight, and we worked on that. Chocolate milk was not the optimal beverage for them. We went with unflavored milk. We would do more leaner protein. So there's always a time and place. But for the average student athlete that is burning thousands of calories, they're struggling to maintain their weight, chocolate milk with a banana and creatine monohydrate, boom, that's one of the best things you can do. And then in fact, that's actually what we recommend some of our pro athletes. So if you're doing that, you're already getting a leg up. And again, it's all about getting the competitive edge. And just keep in mind, if you actually go to your store, for anybody that is like, yeah, but my soy milk has protein. Yes, it does contain protein, but it doesn't contain the same amount of high quality protein. Plant protein has less leucine in it, right? So you would have to consume twice as much plant protein to get the same effects from one serving of the animal protein, which is why animal protein diets are superior to plant protein because of that leucine content. So if you're somebody that is leery of chocolate milk, you're like, oh no, the sugar, keep in mind carbohydrates, they are high, like the needs are high in adolescence. So if you're training on average over 3 hours a day, there's a need for carbohydrates because for every hour of activity, we need roughly 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates. So even with that chocolate milk, the banana, you're still going to be under consuming in carbs. And going back to kind of the nutrient timing strategy, we didn't touch on this too much, but I have a 4-2-1 2 nibble sip strategy. So Dave, when you had asked about like how much should we be eating? Well, 4 hours out, you should have a full meal before a competition, before a game. And that could look like, a grilled chicken sandwich with a fruit cup, side of rice, think 4 hours out, a full meal, you chew it. And then 2 hours out, right, it's more of a nibble. So a nibble on protein and carbs. So that could be string cheese and grapes. And then 1 hour out, you're sipping. And that could be on water, sports drinks, tart cherry juice. So that 4-2-1, right, chew, nibble, sip. And I have a blog on this, but that breaks down exactly how much you would need to eat in the hours leading up to your game. And so obviously, if you're a hockey athlete versus football, that's going to look a little different. If you're playing hockey, you're doing soccer, you're doing more of those sports that are going to be requiring more carbohydrates and different energy systems. Pretzels, right? You can do some honey. Like I said, the cherry juice is actually really great because that provides quick carbs. It also offers antioxidants. Like you said, there's a lot of people that just simply don't understand physiology or nutrient metabolism. We need our muscle and brain, right, runs on sugar, which is carbohydrates. Now, the difference is obviously the carbohydrates and the nutrients from an apple, right? Versus carbs from like a Mountain Dew, completely different,
Right.
right?
Slightly.
Okay. Yeah, just a little, just a little.
No, dude, that is unbelievable because I can't tell you the misinformation that other parents spread to parents.
And that's how it all works, right? But that's where most of you're sitting in the bleachers. My son eats this, so and so eats that, and it's before you know it, it's wildfire. It's like a game of telephone, right? Never works out well in the end of it. It's not even close to what it was. So the misinformation, and Dave and I see it all the time because this is just Dave's wife relaying information back to him, from what she hears in the stands.
Oh, listen. The milk thing, I can't tell you how many arguments. Now, it's one of those things because I'm not as slim as I was when I was an athlete. Okay, so when I go bring up saying, "Hey, listen, milk helped me. It helped me as a football player." And you get in this argument because other parents are like, "Oh, milk is bad for you. Milk is." And you get into this discussion and I'm like, am I wrong? Like I drank milk like Derek did.
You start to question yourself.
Yeah, but milk all the way through. Like my father, who was a phys ed teacher for a million years, and I say an old school phys ed teacher, meaning they read nutrition, they did all the things that were necessary. Like he's a health nut. At 84 years old, he's in great shape.
Better shape.
Yeah, great shape. Unbelievable physical condition. So, but he was always, he's always like, the best thing you could do is after you go and lift is just drink a chocolate milk. This was back when I was always, like shakes and And then, and he even researched like the creatine when I started taking creatine in college. And creatine got a bad name for a while. The place that I played ball at, UConn, we were one of the first to have creatine. And I was taking creatine. This is a long time ago, 1994, I think it was. I had creatine. EAS put out the creatine back in the day. It was a company. And I was taking creatine, and I was making tremendous gains naturally. Okay. And our not a strength and conditioning coach, but I guess it's our trainer, athletic trainer, was asking about it, and they started getting research stuff on it. And they actually started supplementing all the players by 1995 with creatine. And then they did the whole Corey Stringer thing happened. I don't know if you know the story about this, but the whole Corey Stringer thing happened, and UConn actually did this whole study that creatine caused, cramping and all this stuff, and could contribute to some sort of death. Not the fact that they made him run 9 million sprints, but the fact that he took creatine was what caused his death in this, which was crazy. And then you can actually stop giving creatine to the rat. So that misinformation that's out there is so crazy. And I mean, like, and I've heard it with milk. Like when I heard it with milk, I'm not kidding. Like I was like shocked that I was having these discussions because, you get these parents that are like vegan this, vegan that. I started hearing it. I'm like, their kid is the worst athlete going. And they're listening to my kid is among, obviously genetics has a part in that. And
pick your parents well, yes.
Yes. Parent genetics, that could be a part of that. But I'm like, why are we listening to them?
Dave, can we actually back up? So you said something, and this is everybody needs to know this, like creatine's mechanism of action, right? It helps build muscle, helps with recovery, reduces risk of injury. There's been research to support reduction of inflammation. That's important for concussions, traumatic brain injuries. But creatine does not cause cramping because creatine, actually, the mechanism of action is that it draws water into the cell. If anything, creatine hydrates. So I want to just point this out because Dr. Rick Kreider, who's one of my good friends, I met him at the ISSN conference. He has done a great deal of research, but he studied specifically in college football players that creatine does not dehydrate, but in fact actually helps with hydration. So I have cited that study in my blog. So for anybody out there that says, well, creatine causes cramping, no, the fact that you didn't drink enough water, didn't consume enough magnesium, potassium, overall calories, that is why you are cramping. It has nothing to do with creatine. I just want to say that it's important.
That's a great point. And by the way, I could talk to you this stuff about it for hours. And Derek's child is just beginning life, so she's young and she's just starting. He just had a newborn. Now it's a year.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
A year now. Mine is starting to go through that whole process where they're playing a million sports, traveling, like you know about, and obviously both of us coach high school kids for 20 plus years, so we see it all the time with them and all the I hate using the word misinformation, but you're right. Like people just say things because somebody else said it, or they or some person on, like, I don't know, TikTok said something. And all of a sudden they're implementing it in their life, and without getting credible information. The other thing I have a big question about is vitamins, and vitamins in athletes. So should they be supplementing with vitamins? If so, what vitamins are necessary? I'm sure you're going to tell me that eating the right foods is probably the most important thing, which I 100% agree with, but I was a pain in the ass in high school. I did understand to drink milk and supplement, and and Derek, I'm sure, was probably a pain in the ass too. And we're both, really fantastic athletes, and so supplementation did become, like, vitamin wise, like a multivitamin. Like my parents used to have me take that. We have our children take that. But is there other vitamins that people should be taking? And, what is the balance between that, and you could also answer with they should be eating the right foods. I'm sure that's true, but, go through that process.
Absolutely. So, of course, yes, I'm going to say food and nutrition, number one, it's controllable. If kids would eat breakfast, if they'd have, colorful fruits and vegetables, our micronutrients would be satisfied, but that's not a perfect world. And I get it, the traveling. So we do have a higher need for magnesium. I would say, so backing up, number one, before I recommend anything, I always like to ask, why, what are you eating? We look at the nutrition plan. If they're not eating a lot of meals, then yes, a multivitamin can be beneficial. It's not going to hurt you. If anything, it's going to help you. So I'm never against doing an added multivitamin. I just know for a lot of people, right, it's expensive, extra supplements, right? I'd rather let's do real food. But as far as a multivitamin, of course, third-party tested, one a day, men's or women's. That's always one that we gave out to the University of Florida athletes. Keeping in mind that there are certain nutrients that student athletes are more at risk for being deficient in. It would be calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, zinc. A lot of football players specifically that we've worked with, I always have them do magnesium, which also helps with muscle cramping, muscle relaxation. Yep, zinc for your immune system, right? That would be a good cocktail to have, if you will. So it'd be, magnesium, zinc, vitamin D. Those are critical, and then possibly even an iron supplement. Somebody is unfortunately doing a lot of plant proteins, they're unlikely to meet their iron needs or even B12. But if you were to just to answer your question, if you were to just get a multivitamin, like I said, the one a day would be perfectly fine. The only thing is that in the winter months, like in the northern part of the United States, you are not
Oh,
receiving it's terrible. Vitamin D.
it's so difficult. And
I
it's one of these,
know.
like, there's a reason
Yep.
that there's things like, the winter weight and just the vitamin D
Seasonal
itself,
affective
the
disorder.
seasonal depression, all
Yes.
of these things. And especially you're from Minnesota. You did time in
Yes.
Florida. You
Yep.
see, like, there's a
Yes.
reason people in Florida are a lot happier, right? I mean, it just kind
That
of
is
is the way it
correct.
is.
No,
I'm
it's
serious.
true.
Like,
Yes.
it's so, like, just that sunlight is so pivotal. People don't understand it.
Yes. You're 100% right, Derek. And it's technically, it's not a vitamin, it's technically a prohormone, but vitamin
Mm.
D is it's the sunshine hormone. Yes. So, or
Yeah.
sunshine vitamin, we'll say. So 2000 IUs would actually be a dose that I would recommend. And I actually studied vitamin D and muscle cell receptor function in my master's. So even the elderly population needed
Oh,
more vitamin D. Yeah. And it makes a difference for muscle recovery because every single cell, there's a VDR receptor, vitamin D receptor. So if you are not doing vitamin D, especially if you live in the North, but I came from Nashville, Tennessee, and I was there for 3 years.
huh.
Uh, even the athletes that I worked with there, a lot of them were deficient in vitamin D. So there's the insufficiency, deficiency, blah, blah, blah. It goes on. If you go get your levels tested and a doctor's like, oh, you're fine, you're in that middle line. No, we want to be closer to that, like 80. That's, yes, the sufficiency. You don't want to get to that point. And that's a big thing about being proactive. But most athletes are not getting enough vitamin D because even with vitamin D sources, there's only 60 IUs in an egg. So typically between the Endocrine Society and the Institute of Medicine, there's discrepancies of, hey, it's 600 IUs a day to 2000 IUs. I would say if you are in the Midwest, you would safely be able to supplement 2000 to 5000 IUs. And keep in mind, it's best absorbed with the fat, right? It's fat soluble. So I have a vitamin D blog for both athletes and the general population. But if you supplement the vitamin D in the morning with some peanut butter or your eggs, that would be optimal. Do not take your vitamin D later on in the day. That's the thing about supplements too. There is the proper timing. So vitamin D also, it decreases melatonin production. So a lot of people take their multivitamin at night. You don't want to do
Yeah.
that. You want to take it, earlier on in the day. That's a simple tweak that you can make. But I would recommend if you're doing a magnesium and zinc, those could be purchased separately and you could do those in the evening and that would actually help with restful sleep. So,
Yep.
yep, that's what I would recommend.
Magnesium is amazing for getting
The
restful
timing
sleep.
of things is so pivotal too, as well, right? Like,
Yes, it
and
is.
like you said, it all comes back to the misinformation, but it's so much of, and I love that you referenced how much time people spend on their phones in reference to how much time they actually spend fueling their body. And I love to kind of compare it with my high school athletes, the same as you look, would you put bad gas in your car, right? And you're trying to get somewhere, all of these things, everything kind of correlates and goes along with, how you're fueling your body. And you're going to do things at certain times that are now more important for when you want them or when it's the optimal time for things to get absorbed or do this or do that. Like that timing is really pivotal in terms of the entire process.
100%. And I always tell athletes too, like, again, because they sit in front of us and they're like, I want to gain 10 pounds. I want to be the strongest. I want to set PRs. I want the scholarship. Okay. Well, if you really want those things, your current actions, you
Right.
are on the fast track for intramural sports, my friend. If you want to, I mean, I'm kind of intense, but that's just the athlete in me, farm girl.
Listen, we're intense. That's what it's all about. Sometimes, unfortunately, we have to be the bad guys a lot of time because they've been given this information. And because, look, we could just follow suit and tell them what they want to hear and do with all those types of things. But because we actually care about them on an entirely different level, we're giving them the truth. And yes, sometimes that truth hurts and it's not an end all be all. We're giving you the keys and the tools that now if you implement them as much as you just talked about it, then you could be on a different level, right? Focus a little bit more on this and less on your TikTok video saying that you want to do all of this, right? So it's so pivotal that this is something so easy. And look, if they don't believe it, then go look. You can find the research. It's very it's simply out there. The right tools are there for you. Now you just have to go take that action.
You are so right, Derek. And I've just always loved Nick Saban. I love the discipline. Like it takes what it takes. That's one of my favorite just philosophies is like, if you really want to do this, like it does take what it takes. And parents are constantly saying, well, my kid has to get up at 6 a.m. and they start school at 7. Okay, well, you can't control that, but you can control that you allowed your son to stay up till 3 in the morning playing video games. So I don't want to hear this nonsense about it's too early. Like it takes what it takes. You're either willing to set the standard and the discipline in the home. And I'm going to say this because I come from, my dad is a single father. I learned a lot of stuff at a young age, which has made me the follower of Christ, the business owner, the coach, the dietitian, all the things that I am. But we had chores and there were consequences to when we didn't do things. And it was on us to get those things done. And you appreciate things a heck of a lot more when you go through blood, sweat, and tears to earn them. So I just think that there's a lot of kids out there right now that are constantly like, we have a soft generation. And I can say that because I see it. And it's my job to tell them like, you are great, but everybody is constantly telling some of these kids, you're nothing but awesome. You're great. You're telling them all these things. They don't know the difference between first place and last place now because everybody's great. And even Kobe Bryant. I mean, we just look at the way that things are going with participation trophies. I really want to see coaches. I want to see people take a stand and say, hey, what is the difference between first place and last place? Because there is a difference. Because if we don't teach that, then what is the point of working hard or putting any sort of discipline into anything? Because it doesn't mean anything anymore. Championships mean zero, right?
That's why I do love football. And then I also love some of the individual sports like
field,
track, wrestling,
yes.
swimming. So football, because if you haven't done those things, someone's going to hit you and you're going to find out real quick if you're good or not when you get hit. And then I like those individual sports like track and wrestling. Not that I'm advocating for any of them, swimming, but because of the fact that someone finishes first there, like you cannot dispute that someone crossed the line ahead of you. There's no way to dispute that. Like it is what it actually is. There's no referee that's making the call that bails you out, right? Or didn't bail you out. And I think that's important. And it is difficult. The thing I want to take and punt into the oblivion is, and I'm probably preaching to the choir here, is the iPad. I want to punt it into the oblivion. I hate that schools, including my own son's school, which is a fantastic school, they're like, you need the iPad to do some of these different things. Well, now I have an iPad in my house, and every time I turn my back, I've hid that thing and punished on that thing more than anything I've ever been a part of in my life. Like, I've never seen a little device like that I want to take a punt into the woods more than the iPad. But anyway, that's my rant for the day. My question is on beef and meat, because this is also, I can't wait to hear you blow all these myths out of the water. But I all the time I hear this with like kids. It's like, oh, you know, don't give them so much beef and so much meat, and I'm like, you know, this was not a thing when we were growing up. You know what I mean? And I get it. Listen, I get it when you're an adult and you're in your 40s or your 50s, and lean beef is important, and all those kind of things. You know, from a heart standpoint, you're trying to be able to be able to eat like leaner cuts of meat and those kind of things. I get all that, but for younger kids, teenagers, athletes, college kids, talk about meat and beef and the importance of it, in you know, and expand on that in all phases and all the things that it does do.
Love the question. These are like my favorite questions. So I actually have a couple of blogs, the Myth and Fact blog, and then I compared beef and then the Impossible Burger. And point blank, you just look at the ingredient list. One says beef, period. And then the other is like a Rolodex. It's full of nonsense and like all these random things too. There's obviously some protein in it and some soy and a little bit, but again, just look at the ingredient list. Like, we have literally lost our critical thinking skills, and I look forward to getting back to that as well. But one ingredient, it has beef, it has protein. I know my dad would be like, "Ooh." But it's true though. Like, I really want people to read labels. Go back to slowing down. Just look when you're in the grocery store. I understand food and nutrition can be confusing. I'm not making fun of anyone, but I'm just saying, like, go back to critical thinking skills. Flip the label for me. Look what's in it. Look at the nutrition facts, and what you'll find is, like, for beef, iron, magnesium, B vitamins, all the things that we need. Beef, one ingredient. You look at the Impossible Burger, some of these other plant protein burgers, just like milk, it's nut juice. It has less protein and all of these different ingredients and additives. And people are frustrated on why they can't gain muscle or strength. And it's just like, look at the proof is in the pudding. The ingredients are not supporting the amino acids that your body needs, and they're in lesser amounts, and you're feeling gas, bloating, all these other things with it. It's messing up your gut microbiome, and they're also more expensive. So if we just, again, use our critical thinking skills, but if we go back to the science too, and we look at what beef offers from a nutrient profile standpoint, you're going to quickly find, just like milk, right? Calcium, vitamin D, more leucine. Leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Those are the three branched chain amino acids that drive muscle protein synthesis. They are higher in beef and liver and animal proteins. So I would really like to see people get back to the basics. And that's not my opinion. That is according to the science. And I actually have several posts about consuming more protein and more animal protein because it supports testosterone levels, which we all should care about because that is muscle growth, muscle maintenance. And as you get older, for every decade after 40, you lose 8% of your lean mass. So that's why a lot of men, maybe, or women, because I get these questions a lot too, like, well, my kid can eat this, but like if I eat this, this happens. It's just a little bit different, but it's safe to give your kids beef. Now, I would say the preparation is where we could run into trouble, is if you're frying it. What type of oils are you using? What are the
Right.
other, yep. So looking at it that way, if you're doing, beef, ground beef, 93% lean is decent. Flank steak is excellent. I actually recommend our female athletes minimum of 2 red meat servings per week because of the iron content. And I've had several improve their strength, improve their endurance, shave seconds off their time. So females too, that's a struggle bus, but people need to eat animal protein. Both plants and animals matter, but it is a total myth that plants are healthier when consumed in priority over animal proteins. And I obviously think that other things that people are eating, right? If you're eating a bunch of snacks and fried food and soda and you're smoking and just all these other factors go into play. But if you're eating high quality beef, organs. I think liver would be great if people can stomach it. That would be awesome. If you're able to do that, get a half a cow too. You're going to save a lot of money for those that are in the Midwest. That's like a very real thing. Fill your freezer up. But if you do that, you're going to save money, and your whole household is going to be safer and healthier.
Right, but I also think it's one of these things too. If this is my look on it, if I spend the money on it, right, then I'm going to be more concerned and more dialed in to use it the right way and that type of thing, right? Like if I'm going to buy this and I'm going to put it in my freezer, then we're sure as hell going to put it that way, family wise. I mean, look, I always say this, with is a will, there's a way. Look, you want to get a couple families together, go in on a cow, let's divvy it up and let's rock, right? I mean, there's things like this that if you really want to make things happen ultimately and make it, financially for, okay for now and things, I think there's a way. I'm sorry. I'm not a big believer in excuses and things like that. If you want to do things, then you'll figure out a way to make it happen.
I love that. And to your point too, eggs, that's a common one too. I have a blog on why you should eat eggs. Eggs are not the problem. Saturated fat is not the problem. It's the fried foods. It's the ultra processed foods. If people like, here are the best foods, people that are taking notes: eggs, beef, chicken, fish, steak, right? Sweet potatoes, fruit. Do not fear these things. Same thing. Local honey. Honey is not to be feared. Everyone's like, oh, the sugar. Well, okay, but if you do local honey, it actually is good for your immune system and it supports, and you can have it right before a workout. So I think the context is really key for a lot of these things with nutrition. But if everybody just applied like all the things that we've talked about, oh my goodness, we'd have the most robust, fierce set of athletes. Healthy, strong, less prone to injuries, less depression, less anxiety.
50s again, Dave.
I know, right? Exactly, like those videos you see. Is beef? So you talked about liver, which I've read a lot on that. Are beef organ supplements that like kind of try to mimic liver? Are those good for people that can't stomach liver, or not worth it?
I think it depends. Honestly, I don't know enough about some of the production with them. I do know like the Liver King and some of these other, I'm just going to call them charlatans. They have some crazy playbook. I would just be mindful that a lot of supplements do contain heavy metals. So it's like risk reward for me personally. I think that, maybe they won't hurt you. Maybe they might add a little benefit if you can't stomach liver. But again, I look at risk reward for me.
Right.
I would rather just either not do liver at all because there's so many other organ, animal proteins that you can still get the same nutrients without doing the liver stuff. But I know that there's a few brands out there that are third party tested. But again, I personally don't want heavy metals in my body. So to me, the risk isn't worth the reward.
You don't want to be you don't want to have so much gold in you that you're worth.
You don't want the TSA monitor going off when you're going to the airport.
That's right. All right. So this last question is probably more for the coaches that listen, because we do have a lot of coaches. I don't know if you've noticed, but there used to be a lot of big coaches on the sidelines. Okay. In football, obviously, which is what me and Derek coach, but in all sports, you have a lot of big coaches. Well, big coaches don't get hired as much anymore, right? So you see a lot of guys that were big coaches go and take, they may not say they are, but they take some have said they were, but Ozempic or any of those type of. What is? I'm curious your opinion on that, because in the coaching field, and this is just kind of the reality in coaching, especially when you. I don't know if it's as big a deal as assistants, but no doubt for head guys who want to be head coaches and girls that want to be head coaches, right? That you get looked at because you're on TV or you're in front of the school and what you represent from an image standpoint. So there is, whether they like to say it or not, there is like a propensity to shy away from bigger people, heavier people. Versus not. And that, I noticed it most prominently with the Maryland coach, how he lost a ton of weight, and he said that he took Ozempic. But there are other coaches that are doing as well. Talk about those. Is there pros and cons to that? There's some people who think that it's the most amazing wonder drug of all time, and then there's some people that think, hey, there's going to be some long-term, maybe dangerous side effects of that. And are there alternatives for people to and I'm probably pretty sure there are things you're going to say that I know the answer to, but are there alternatives, just so people understand that?
Absolutely. So severe consequences that we do not know, but they are absolutely being presented and studied. Number one, your risk of thyroid cancer, colon cancer goes up, risk of malabsorption of nutrients, which affects your nutritional status. I think this is important, and I love the question. Obviously, I'm going to say number one, lifestyle change. I've worked with a lot of coaches. Our men and women's fat loss program is primarily always coaches. I have helped a number of coaches lose over 100 pounds. Same thing with kids. Food, exercise, sleep, calorie reduction, less than 500 calories a day is all they have to tweak, and they will lose 1 pound on average, and they will keep it off. The problem with Ozempic that I have is it is not actually solving and treating the real origin of the problem, which is
Yep.
behavioral, traumatic. A lot of people overeat because it's a stress, it's a coping mechanism, and coaching is stressful. Working with athletes, long hours. They're drinking energy drinks, they're not eating enough high quality protein, they're skipping their workouts. If coaches actually took care of themselves, they wouldn't need Ozempic. I think Ozempic is like a band-aid on a gunshot wound, and it's not going to end well. It's like rearranging furniture on a sinking ship. And I say the same thing about energy drinks. Hey, coach, I need more energy. Well, did you have protein and carbs before your workout? Did you get breakfast? Did you sleep 7 to 9 hours? No, I didn't have time. Okay, but show me your screen time. You have 7 hours on TikTok. Okay, what are we doing here? Okay, so just to like truly have people look themselves in the mirror. And if you have not exhausted all resources, right, in coaching, you talk to your athletes, you preach this every day about showing up, putting in the work, being consistent. Why can't you do the same thing in your
Mm-hmm.
nutrition? And here's a solution I have for all the coaches that are like, well, I'm considering Ozempic. Number one, you don't need it if you change your lifestyle. It's really hard to get fat eating a ton of protein. I've had a number of coaches, hey, what we're going to do here is we're literally just going to eat protein and produce. We're going to eat, and I share this on Twitter and social media all the time. Half your plate is steak, eggs, chicken, beef, a protein, and then the other half is fruit and vegetables, asparagus, roasted broccoli, actually, delicious vegetables that fills you up. And then you facilitate a calorie deficit, and you're losing weight, and you're not starving yourself. You're not taking a dangerous medication that we don't even know all the consequences, but it's a
Yep.
pharmaceutical, right? And I just really empower people. Like, I understand. I work with people who have to change their lifestyle for the lifelong process of, like, they may battle that every day, that voice in their head. But isn't that so much better than losing years off your life, not being able to play with your grandkids? Like, the best years of your life are going to be cut short because you took a shortcut. Don't take the shortcut. And I know maybe somebody will come and attack me, doctors. It is a shortcut in my eyes, because if we're in a profession that preaches process, 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 and then you're trying
Yeah.
to skip the process, like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to put it back on you. Consider the process, and you're going to find that I can do this. This is more sustainable. And again, I always go back to risk reward. Changing your lifestyle and leading by example is not only going to be good for you, it's going to be good for your family, it's going to be good for your athletes to see, and then other coaches. And it makes a heck of a lot better of a story than, yeah, I took that injection and now I have cancer. Okay, that's mic drop on that one.
That has
Boom.
been yes,
Boom.
that is the mic drop. There's nothing else as we say. I mean, as soon as I always hear,
Perfect.
if you have thyroid issues, do not take this. It could increase the risk of thyroid cancer. That's the first thing I think to myself. I say,
Yeah.
that's just one of the things they already know about
Right.
for sure. That's like, this for sure could cause you thyroid cancer. They already know that. They're just trying to, like, present it to you in a way. So, and I'm sure
In a fuzzy way. Nice little fuzzy appealing way.
who are probably heavier to begin with, right? Derek probably have thyroid issues to begin with. There probably some level of, there could have
100%.
some level of a thyroid issue, right? So now you're putting something that's actually going
Scary.
to accelerate cancer. That's the
It's
thing
terrifying.
to me. So I'm glad you answered that question, because so many coaches watch the show, and it's definitely
Not worth it.
yeah, it's something they I'm sure goes through a lot of guys' heads. Last question, I'll let you go, because we've definitely garnered enough of your time. And if Derek, by the way, I've completely monopolized the question asking. So if after my question you want to ask any questions,
Nope, you're good, buddy.
I was prepared. So sports drinks, okay,
Mm.
Gatorade. That's the other thing that, and I'm sure Derek, you deal with this too, right?
All the time.
Yeah. Should they drink Gatorade? Should they not drink Gatorade? Um, is water sufficient? There are, like, I see these. I can't think of the name of it. We have it in our house. Um,
Electrolytes.
the electrolyte. Yeah, you
Mhm.
pour them in. Is
Mhm.
that better? Talk about that part of the process, the hydration sports drink part of the process.
Absolutely. And I just want to remind everybody that Jesus loves them and he loves you enough that you don't have to be perfect in your health and nutrition, but he does want a healthy you. He doesn't need a perfect you, but he needs a healthy you. So everybody just remember that when they're making decisions, like, does this
It's
decision
important.
support the future I'm trying to create? Yes. So with the sports drink question, same rules apply. It always depends. I'm not against sports drinks. I will say that for the most part, athletes often don't need them because there are other better options, in my professional opinion, as a certified sports nutritionist that works with a lot of endurance athletes too. We do like tart cherry juice. We do a lower sugar, like you can even, I have recipes to make your own. The biggest thing with sports drinks, right, is it's minerals and carbohydrates, which you can easily get from blueberry juice, pomegranate juice, cherry juice. You can also add in additional electrolytes if you want. I think the Gatorades and the sports drinks are overhyped and unnecessary. But then again, say, being real life as a former athlete, things happen. You have zero time. You didn't plan ahead. You didn't pack the cooler. Gatorade is the only available beverage option for carbs, fluid, minerals. Yes, drink the Gatorade, but I implore you to investigate other options like coconut water. You can do element packets. It has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, right? That's the biggest thing. Some of these sports drinks, they're supposed to contain more sodium, potassium, and magnesium, and they don't. It's just all sugar and then dyes, artificial sweeteners, which do affect the gut health. So I would, again, if you're a parent, I'm not shaming you if you're doing Gatorade, but what I'm saying is there are better options. The coconut water, element, drip drop. Really, there is a difference though, Dave and Derek, about like if you're an athlete and every athlete sweats at a different rate in different conditions. Obviously, I'm
Mhm.
in Texas. Yeah. So if you're in Texas, there's different conditions. So if
Hmm.
you're a heavier sweater, you're going to need more sodium, more magnesium, more potassium, and phosphorus because you're losing that at a higher rate than others. And some athletes just sweat more. Some of the athletes at Florida, I was blown away. These guys were
Oh,
losing,
whew.
10 pounds. Yeah, 10 pounds in a session or a practice outside. So it really does depend. But I would say for the most part, if you're able to do the tart cherry juice and even make your own at home, which you could easily do, like I said, with coconut water and then add in your own electrolytes using the cherry juice. Much better choice, better ingredients. And then it also offers, again, that ratio that an athlete actually needs. I think Gatorade, absolutely, it's, proven, but something to keep in mind going back to the chocolate milk for post workout. So they actually did a study it was published in the International Society of Sports Nutrition. They studied bench press, and the athletes that consumed chocolate milk post workout benched more than the athletes that consumed Gatorade. And I think obviously a lot has to do with the protein and then that 3-to-1 carb to protein ratio, and then the minerals all in that one drink, if you will. So I really don't think sports drinks are necessary. I really think everybody should try out what works well for you on a practice day. Never try new things on a game day. But I think,
Great
yeah,
point.
sports drinks are overhyped and often unnecessary. If you're playing video games too or scrolling social media, the last thing you should be doing is sipping on Gatorade.
Yeah.
Great. Yes. Water. Have lots of water next to them if they're playing video games.
Yes.
They all are. They all are. No matter what we say, they're all going to be. They're all on it at some point. Um, Derek, do you have any questions I
You're
did pretty
good.
good? I think I did pretty good. But and you did fantastic. Before
Listen,
we let you
it's not
go,
even that we have other questions. It's just everything was, Wendy, you did a phenomenal job of covering
yes,
all the bases of everything that we really kind of were expecting and more. So we couldn't be more thankful for
Great.
you. And we really appreciate you taking the time. And we would love to continue to help you spread the word of that you have in terms of just everything that you stand for. So really appreciate you taking the time to come speak to us and, all of our listeners as well.
Wendy,
Oh, yes.
what's your Instagram? Like, what's the best way for people to reach out to
Plug
you?
away, Wendy. Plug away.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. Well, first and foremost, as always, I love Jesus. I would not be alive today without him. So I appreciate everything that he does, and it's never too late to get to know him. I was a former non-believer, so Jesus changed my life, and I just pray that everybody who listens to this knows that he loves you. He has a plan for you. Thank you for having me, Derek. And Dave, honestly, this has been such a joy. I'm very passionate, and the best way that people can reach out is Nutrition with Wendi, and that's Wendy with an I on Instagram. My Twitter is Wendi Irlbeck. I have a website, nutritionwithwendi.com. We have a team of coaches. We have a free newsletter. So if you like the tips I provided, the protein, any of the plant-based stuff that we talked about, myth and fact, we break all of that down in a weekly newsletter. And then we also have our one-on-one coaching. I do a lot of public speaking, a lot of team talks, and then we have our one-on-one coaching. So go check us out. Tons of free resources. You literally go to my Twitter and you can get a full meal plan. And all you got to do is the work. And it's great people like you and coaches that make a big difference for some of the guys out there that are struggling to get quality resources. I'm just grateful to be on this podcast, and it's been such a joy and blessing to speak with both of you.
Wendy, I can't thank you enough. And as someone who's a born again Christian myself, who grew up as a Christian and then kind of like fell away from it, and came back to it in the early 2000s. And I remember when it changed, it really changed for me when I really felt it. And from that point forward, I never kind of looked at anything the same. And in a really positive way, right? Jesus Christ being my savior, and having people like yourself who have gone through that journey and want others to really understand how it's helped them, right? I always say it's like, when you say how it's helped you, then people, get more in touch with it, right? And it's been powerful for me. So I that part of it as well. It's great to have you on.
Oh, thanks. And just one last thing for anybody. I read, so John Piper is a pastor out of Minnesota. This book changed just everything for me. Like, our life is to point people to Christ. Like, that's the purpose of our life. And you guys do that every day, and just, showing up as the people that you are. And if anyone's looking for a good book, it's this one. John Piper, he's amazing. And yeah, because Jesus could come back today, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, what accolades, what your status is, none of that matters. And you're either going up or down. And I, for one, want to go up. I want to see my family, and I want to spend eternity with our King.
Me too. 100%.
Phenomenal.
Thanks so much for coming
Hi.
on. And
Thanks, Wendy.
we'll see you soon. Stay
Bye,
in
guys.
touch with us, please.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate you both. Have a blessed day.
Take
Have
care.
a great day, Wendy. That was phenomenal. That was great. So many, there's so many things. It's amazing how
You could talk that stuff forever.
Yeah, but like you hear, and I know you hear it definitely, because
The myths, the misinformation, all of this kind of stuff, back and forth. And like, look, the best part about everything that she does is it's supported with actual science, right?
Right.
Like, and for me, I always take the where it comes from really, really is important, especially in a day and age now when anybody can go on Wikipedia and say anything that they want, right? So look, it may have gotten for a certain thing for people listening, but the fact that she kept referencing, hey, I've done this, I've done that, I've done that, just supporting herself in the fact that, look, I've been through this research. Look, I put the work in, I studied this, I've read this, I've published this. To me, just makes a huge difference than just, what you hear in the stands on a Friday night, or what you hear at practice from somebody who just read something off of Wikipedia. Like, there's science behind it. It's all based. She works with not just a small group of the highest level athletes that can afford everything, right? She works with youth, male, female, athletes, non-athletes, and it's all documented. It's all there for look, phenomenal. It was just so good. So good with her.
I think
it's just so good.
Administrators too, which is always your obstacle in schools, at least. Because in college, that's not an issue, right? They have nutritionists. It's different. It's different. It's below that. It's before you get there,
right? It's
Yeah.
why we always say, like, look, when you come, look, you're going to leave for camp in August. And when you get back for Thanksgiving break, you're going to look like a different dude, right? And they always do. Why? Because there's a focus on that nutrition. They have you're eating. Look, you don't have, like, you have, like what did she reference? Nick Saban, right? Like he's famous for, look, you're right. You don't have a lot of choices, right? But you have the choice to kind of do what we tell you. And here's what you're eating. Okay. In high school and middle school, you're kind of at either the mercy of your parents or what you can figure out, right? You're kind of making things. And look, you look at a lot of her stuff, everything she talks about is, it's financially, most people, you're capable of doing it if you want to, right? There's no reason to spend these astronomical amounts of money for all of these things. But even with that, I look at it and I say, look, you want to spend all this money on training, you want to spend all this money on doing this or doing that, when the money you should be spending should be on going to the grocery store and doing and eating the right things of that. You know what I mean? It's just, I loved it. It was so great. It's so great. And like I said, she has a bunch of social media platforms. God bless her, because she's extremely, she's so passionate about it, and you can tell, right? Everything she does. And, she's educated. She gets it. She's got a firm grasp on the whole thing. She wants to help people. She's not just out there kind of doing whatever. Like I said, I hope people took a lot of things for it. And if you go to her site and do like a lot of the things she does, here it is, right? Like, you don't have to go pay for her book to read about this or that. It's right there. She posts stuff every single day, lists of snacks or lists of what you should be eating. I just like the way she's going about everything. I think she's going to be extremely successful. I'll tell you that much. It's only going to grow, I think, the more it goes into it. And in a day and age where everybody just wants to pop a pill for something, like, hey, all you have to do is go eat this. And that does the exact same as if you're spending, 10 times whatever to do this. So,
no doubt. Fantastic podcast. All right. Till next time.
Awesome.